Let's chat. Wednesday night, back to normal. Mikey's here. Oh, I don't know if I go the right way again. I think it's that way.
Brian,
Hold down below as usual.
Keep practicing.
Yeah, I'll keep working on it. Nicole, hello.
Hello.
Hey, guys, mental health. Wanted to talk about. I don't know if you guys have been doing it recently, and whether it is to do with COVID and things that have been going on. We want to keep up to date with the news. When I was growing up, I was a smoker. I know you find it hard to believe, Nicole, but I was for about 10 years. And I always, as a smoker, you got to have your smokes with you because, you might feel like one, so you got to grab it, And since not doing that and with mobiles, it's the same. My mobile phone has to be near me everywhere. I nearly sleep with it, It's only half a metre away on the bedroom table. So how do we go with that? I mean, if I lose mine or I can't find it, I don't get into a panic, but I certainly want to know where it is pretty quick. What do you think?
I think it's a symptom of that connectivity that we need to have. I'm the same. I've got a work phone and a personal phone. So I've got two phones quite often within arm's reach at all times. Exactly like Mikey, and they're both beside me right now. So yeah, and then sometimes I have my phone, my two phones and an iPad. So that's even better. I think that as much as you'd hate to say it, it's just a symptom of our current way we live and the way we work. I mean, I don't know about you, I almost gasp in horror when I see the screen time report comes up every week and it says you've spent 8 hours of screen time a day. And I think, my God, what have I done? But
is that per day, is it? Oh, whoops.
Yeah, 8 hours on average. For the week, it's 8 hours a day on your phone.
Wow.
And what am I doing with my life?
What were you doing at that time? What were you doing for 8 hours a day?
Yeah, on your phone.
What did we do before phones? Like, I can't even remember a time. I think I got my first mobile phone when I was 19 or something, and it was still a bit of a new thing then. You couldn't really do much other than ring someone on them, maybe play Snake, and if you're really smart, you could make your own ringtone, and that was it. But now look at them, like you can't go anywhere without doing everything on this thing in our hands. So what do you do?
Well, it's what we wanted, mate. Everyone wanted that. They wanted the availability of things at your fingertips. Now we've got it. Phone books are obsolete. Phones on the wall are obsolete. I don't know anyone that's got a home phone anymore. Even driving around Bendigo, you very rarely see a telephone booth. So, we got what we wanted. We wanted all the information in one thing that, is the size of your hand. So
funny though, the more connected that we think we are, the less personal connection that we actually have. And people watching is a bit of a hobby of mine, and that's been developed from many years on the road and sitting in restaurants, away for work, eating dinner by yourself and just watching what's going on around.
So you're a stalker?
No, but in a professional sense.
Observing.
It's quite like it's more common than not now to see people sitting at a table and they're all sitting there with their food in front of them and they're all like this, just no one's talking to anyone face to face, and that's one of the great losses I think we've had is the art of conversation. Some people can't hold a conversation now properly because they're used to just shorthand brief texting and they don't know how to operate in a social environment where you've actually got to be like us and look someone in the eye and talk to them. And it's really disheartening to see that. And you think now, what's the next generations or the generations behind us going to be like when, it's second nature now for them to have this. We're giving it to kids when they're toddlers to entertain them in a social setting. So they're growing up learning that, well, this is what I do when we're out at dinner. They're going to lose that art of conversation and relating to people.
Yeah, I'd like to think that it was an easier life. And I mean, you kind of had to wait as a kid to come home and, mum would say, hey, look, Jimmy rang. Okay, well, I'll ring him back, or you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend that you wanted to talk to and you extended the cord into another room so no one could hear. But these days, the kids can do it. They don't talk, as you said, they're on the text. So, look, is it a good thing? Kids as young as 8 with mobile phones I've seen, without SIM, understand that. So it's just Wi-Fi. But again, it's, that's how we communicate, and the days possibly, I think, coming, if they're probably already here for parents, is that we want to know where our kids are. We want to, you know, go back 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, you go out for a couple of hours, you wouldn't have a clue where the kids were. You know, until you get home, Mum says, "Where you been?" You said, "Oh, I was at Barry's place," but you might have been at Jeff's or where. It didn't matter. But nowadays, with the tracking devices and everything on them, I mean, you know exactly, or you can, if you want, exactly where your kids or you are, in fact, or your partner. So all of a sudden, the anxiety comes into it because you go, "Oh, I better check where he is or she is or the kids are, and if they're lying to me, well, look out," you know. And there's that. What's the word I'm looking for here? I suppose the. Not the beauty, but just that you know, the thing is that we just don't trust them, you know, whereas we used to. We take people's word for it in the past, we don't anymore.
Yeah, look, granted, the world's changed a lot since our time as kids, and you know, we used to be able to go out and come back when the street lights came on, and so long as you're home by dark, everything was okay, and the world was a bit different back then, and so yeah, maybe there is some benefits in having it from that perspective as a parent, but I think too it also needs to be monitored. I know with your kids, I don't know how you find it, but they spend a lot of time on those devices, and then when you take it off them, I've seen kids, and it's almost like taking they go through a withdrawal, almost like a drug addict. And they're stalking around the house, looking in every cupboard and going through everything, trying to find this device because they just can't. Like, that's all they know, and they can't function without it. And that's not healthy. That's where you've got to find the balance.
Yeah, and I think like my eldest is 11, and he's had a mobile phone for 4 years.
Wow.
And that was mainly because he lives between two houses, and when he's at my house, he'll talk to his dad on his mobile phone and vice versa. So that's the reason we got it. I didn't agree with it to start with. I'll be honest with you. I just thought it was ridiculous, a 7-year-old having a phone. But now it makes sense. Sometimes he does use it a little bit too much, and I see that angst build up in him if he can't find his phone. But more often than not, he's listening. He's not texting friends. He might be listening to music on it, which I really enjoy. I think that's maybe a good thing. But even with an iPad, with my 7-year-old, the iPad, it's always there. But I think that's right. We wanted that we wanted to have everything at our fingertips, and now our children are growing up with that as well. We do make a rule that if we go out somewhere, they don't have their devices. Like, they can have them in a car while we go. And then once we get to where we need to go, they stay in the car. I'd really like to introduce no meal times with technology, but obviously that's a little bit harder when I'm probably a really good person who doesn't do that as well. So I need to lead by example. But you're right, Mikey, with when you go out to dinner, I go out to dinner a lot by myself, and that's what I notice, couples that don't actually look at each other or each other the whole time during dinner, and that makes me really sad because I'd love to have someone to sit across from and have that conversation with, but I'm on my own, so more often than not I'm buried my head in my phone anyway. But it's so funny to see that, like, they'll sit there and they won't look up or talk to each other, and it's like, oh, this is what we've become, and that's kind of sad. But I think more people are recognizing that now, and they're doing that digital detox and stuff like that, which is can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely, again, like everything in moderation is okay. You've too much of one and not enough of the other, and you get it out of kilter, and that's where you've got the issues. But yeah, I mean, we've had the no technology at the table rule for quite some time now, and you've got to lead that one by example. The hardest thing we've found is things like other devices, maybe not the phone, but like Xbox and laptops and things like that. They're hard too. You've got to control that and be across those too, because if the kids had their way, they'd be on it from sun up to sundown without even blinking, literally. And that's not healthy either. So, we've got to enforce those rules as parents and carers or whatever you may be, and make boundaries for the kids to operate within. And I think that especially young boys like to push the boundaries, and they need some boundaries to keep them in check. So it's definitely something that we need to battle against.
Yeah, but we've gone to the kids. We'll get back to us, and that is that we're just as bad. I mean, Thing is that if we go back to when we were kids, or certainly when I was, video games, of course we had them. They've been around since the late 70s, 80s. And if you weren't doing that, you were at the certain joint down the road playing the pinball machines or Space Invaders or something. So they've always been there. It's just the fact that we couldn't take Space Invaders home. It was a bit hard. But again, it was an attraction. The kid at school who was one of the most popular probably had a Nintendo or something like that, or I can't remember what the old ones were. Atari, yeah, thanks. So they probably had that. So we've always been around that type of thing. I think from our point of view, you're right. It's the example we can set, and from what I can tell, we don't set it. I certainly don't. I use mine for a lot of reasons, because I do get a lot of messages, and they're not private messages. They're more or less, "Oh, could you help me with this?" which I don't mind, and they're not normally over and done with fairly quick. But again, it's hard to, I've taken the notifications off mine, so it doesn't just every time I look at it, it's got 6 messages. I've taken all that off. So all I see is a blank screen, and I don't know whether I've got messages or not, because what was happening, and this may be the same for others with mental health, is as soon as you see a message, shoot a bit, answer it, or it's a notification of some kind. So, and you do, as much as you don't, you do, because you kind of sit there and you think, "Oh, it's a bloody message on my phone over there. I want to check it." Nah, and then you do. Because that's what you do. And then you open the message and it might be something you go, "Oh, shit, I could have dealt with that later." So, yeah, that's what I do. I tend to sit it there. I've got, it's in front of me now. It's not saying anything. Not that it does say anything. It doesn't show anything, I should say. So I don't have any issues with it. So I only check it every 10 minutes or something, and I think, "Oh, okay, there's a few messages there." And I find that to be a lot easier mentally, because I don't have the stress of going, "Oh, who is it? What do they want now?" No, the same with calls. I don't have, someone rings, my phone's always on silent. Now, I don't know if that, what I just said, resonates with you guys, but it resonates, I should say. But it certainly does for me.
I turn the notifications off if it's someone who I'm waiting to hear from. Does that make sense? So if I sit there and I'm stressing about if someone will ring or message me, I'll turn off the notifications on my phone so I don't feel that angst, and that way I don't jump on it and quickly reply quickly. So I'm not sitting there thinking every time my phone buzzes, is it going to be them? So I just turn off the notifications of that altogether. It works quite well with me until I'm checking the phone to make sure they have or not. So. Yeah. But yeah, I can see how that works. I set overnight time, I set my phone to do not disturb at a certain time. That way I don't look at my phone from a certain, I only get notifications on my phone after 9 o'clock at night, because that way I can actually switch off and not be angsty about who's calling or not. I obviously change it when my kids aren't here so I can speak to them, but after 9 o'clock it's a no-go zone for me. And I always, if I'm with my friends, I make sure that we do spend the quality time together and I don't look at my phone all the time. But then I've also got to watch that buzzes every single time a call comes through. So that's the other part of, I won't look at my phone, but then I can screen my calls or look at my messages through my watch, which is another extra added bit that we've added just to make our lives a bit more.
Yeah, I don't know why the phone. I know you've got one, and there's people in my household here that do as well. It seems to be pretty common. I just don't think that's a great idea. But again, it's a fashion thing with Apple and the watch and all that. And I don't know if you can. You told me, can you talk on it? Is it like a shoe phone? Can you?
I know. I actually just use mine to track my steps most of the time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right.
But it does, obviously, it does get like when the messages come through, it will vibrate. But I can turn the notifications off on that as well. So I like the idea that I can do that. Do I do it? Probably not as much as I should, but I think that I know I need to do it, and when I do, I can take a step back, and that angst does stop. That ball in your stomach kind of goes away. So
yeah, that's right. But again, that's a learned thing to be able to do that, because it's not easy. Because you are, as much as people, I think the best thing to do is to say that, and this is as an individual, that you are addicted in some way to your phone, Mikey. And I think the minute you say that, if you go, nah, not a problem, I think you're kidding yourself. I think we are in some way addicted. We're addicted to who's messaging us, what do they want, what's their problem. Certainly from my point of view, I have people who would disagree with what I say, whether it's on Facebook and they'll send me messages, or I'll see it on Facebook and I'll say, you know what, I'm not going to answer that right now because I'm probably not in the frame of mind, but I know what they're thinking before I even open the message. So
Yeah.
that tends to be my way of trying to control it, Mikey.
Yeah, and I think you're both right. You've got to have boundaries, whether that's time limits or I'm not going to respond to this person at this time or whatever. You need to have that in place. Otherwise, it can overtake your life and it can rule your life. And I think certainly the comment you made about going to dinner, it should either be face down so that you don't see anything, or in your pocket or your bag and not on the table. And there's no temptation there to pick it up and start texting when someone's talking to you because, it's probably one of the rudest things you can do to someone.
I agree.
They're giving you time and you're there and you're talking to anyone else but them. And one thing for me is you hear the ding of the phone and you pounce on it and pick it up, and my phone will ding and then I'll leave it and I'll get to it when I get to it, because it's just conditioning you to respond and jump on and pounce on someone every time you hear a notification. And I don't want to be dictated to by the phone. So it is, it's again, like all things that we keep coming back to, it's something you've got to learn, and it's hard and you've got to start slowly and build up to it. But you can get to a point where you can actually just have your phone sit on the bench and not pick it up and not look at it, and not check it in, on who's messaging and who's doing what. So
it's also made people anxious because they are not quite sure what they should say. And if you've opened a message in Messenger and it comes up as it does and says seen or whatever it is, then people are like, what's their problem? They haven't, they've seen it, but they haven't said anything. And most people are kind of going, okay, well, I had to open it to actually read it, but I haven't really got a response yet. So that brings up anxiety in you. It's like, what's their problem? Don't they like me? So there's a whole world of that stuff that's out there that, let's be realistic. People think like that. I mean, they do. And I mean, because I do every now and again, I think, oh, gee, what have I done to upset Nicole, which is regular. But
that's the worst thing. Then you get the 4 question marks. I do that. It's like,
that's how we react.
Do I leave you on red a bit, do I?
But the thing is, really, you're right. If you did that in a personal face-to-face thing like we are now, hey, Mikey, why didn't you answer the question I just said? What's going on? And you're like, well, I'm having to think about it. Is that okay? And I think that's where we are. We're a want, give it to me now society, and we want to answer straight away. I mean, the people who text me, they're not thinking I'm doing anything. They're texting me with questions which are, like, hey, can you help with this now? It's like, oh, okay, well, no, I can't. So I've been used to saying no, I can't just now. But again, that's not easy.
No is usually the hardest word for anyone to say, let alone hear as well. So it's hard, and again, it's hard to set boundaries because we don't want to seemingly feel like we're alienating ourselves from people or cutting ourselves off from people, because we all, as we said, with the phone, we want all this connectivity and we want to be connected to everyone and anyone. But you also need to, protect your own little space and your own time as well.
Yeah, it's difficult. Mobile phones, mental health. Again, as you would always say, keep an eye on it, because you can just balloon out of control and take over your world a little bit. What I found too is if you do, if you do have an argument on social media, whether it's Messenger or whatever, with someone, or even, so I can say it, is that it's one of those arguments that's normally pretty dumb, and something gets solved in a minute if you're in this forum looking straight at someone. But on Facebook, it never gets resolved. No one ever gives in. Yeah.
Well, everyone's pretty brave behind a keyboard and at distance. But if you're staring someone down the face, it's a lot harder to say some of those things to them too. Without.
Couldn't agree more, mate. And I think that's
popping a clip around the ears. So.
Yeah, I like to think the keyboard warriors, Nicole, are starting, not disappear. They'll never disappear. But I think you said Twitter before. Twitter is the worst thing. Is the worst forum for bullying, the whole lot. So if you're into Twitter and you're reading it, you're most likely a person who gives one-line things back and says, this bloke's crap or he's full of shit or whatever. And I think that to me is unhealthy. I'm on it, but I don't respond much to it. I prefer.
Yeah. I'm the same. I've got a Twitter account. I occasionally like when you hit the little like thing. I've got mates that are on there and I'll like their posts, but I would never in a million years, but that's me personally, I would never in a million years have a go at someone for their opinion on social media, because if I was walking down the street, I wouldn't do that to someone either. So I like to think that if I'm not brave enough to do that in person, why would I sit on the end of my phone doing that to someone? It's just not who I am or how I'm built. Having said that, if I've got a problem with someone in real life, I probably wouldn't say anything either. So,
but that's
yeah,
right.
but it's just who I am, and I just think, oh my God, I don't know if they're brave or silly to sit there on the end of their phone just saying to someone, yeah, I know that's your opinion, but you're wrong and you're shit. So I just wouldn't even enter into that.
It's funny you say that, because there's I think there's a meme going around, and it's a Mike Tyson quote that said, social media has made you all far too comfortable saying what you think without fear of getting slapped in the head.
Yeah, pretty much.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
And that's the thing, right? They're hidden. You may not ever see these people. And I know with someone like your profile, Cogs, I know you probably cop a fair bit of a roasting from some people who think they've got the right to question you or say what they think. But would they say that to you if they ran into you down at the shops?
They never do, mate.
Never would.
Never do. I haven't had hardly anyone, unless it was someone with a few beers and have a crack at me in public. And I go lots of places, so I see lots of people. I'm not saying that that it's a bad thing, because I don't mind people saying what they think, because at least you know where you stand. But what I don't like is if you see these people, or you hear via a second party, this person said this about you and all that, and all of a sudden you see them in the street and they're your best mate. I can't handle that. I think that's shit. But if you've got something to say it, but make sure it's how you really feel about things, and you're not just bullshitting everybody. So. Because again, it's not going to do your mental health any good if you're giving someone a hard time and all of a sudden you run into them and you've changed the tune, you've taken your Superman cape off, and you're just you're generally just the person that minds his business or her business.
But when we were in primary school, we used to have to work to get a pen license. I think some people should have phone licenses. We might have to introduce that to some people.
I think you're right. The biggest issue I find, and I get a lot of texts from people who may have said something on my stream or Triple M or whatever, and then it's backfired on them. And what I mean by that is, someone will have something come back at them and said, "Oh, really? You really think that?" Blah blah. And these people then text me privately and say, "Oh, can you delete that because that guy's having a go at me?" And I feel like saying, "Look, you started it. You're a big person. Most of them adults, by the way. I'm not talking kids here." If you're going to say something and someone comes back with an alternative view on it, then you've got to suck it up, princess. You've got to say, right, okay, well, I had my say. It's not Russia. It's not everything I say is right. You've got your own opinion. So off you go. If you can't handle that, then don't write it. And I often say, look, I wouldn't write it if you can't handle someone having a crack back at you. That's not being personal. When they get personal, it's different. But you wear it, but they're worried about how they look. Well, don't have that opinion if you're worried about your feelings and overall your mental health.
Very true.
That's what I say. I mean, it's different for me because, I've been smacked around the head too many times, so I couldn't care less what people say. But again, there'll be a few that get through where you go, oh man, that was a bit harsh. So I've got to protect my mental health. But 9 times out of 10, if you've been smacked around a bit, you're a bit battle prone, if you know what I mean. Like you're pretty right.
You develop a tough skin, and
you do. Yeah, you do.
Stuff like that. You become like a duck and just let it wash off you and roll over you, and don't buy in on it.
But it takes a long time to get to that stage. And it takes a long time. And I wouldn't ask anyone to do that. There's only so much you can put up with. But again, if you're not that way inclined, then don't say it on Facebook. Don't have an opinion, because if it's not something you could say Nicole to her face, then don't say it on a post.
Amen.
There you go. We'll finish it there. Mental health and mobile phones. It's tricky. You've got to be really careful. You've got to be on your game, because the other problem, just quickly before we go, is when we get tired, we say stuff we shouldn't. Or a message where we go, oh, mate, yeah, whatever. Like people go, oh, hang on, what's this, whatever. So just try not to answer stuff when you're tired or irritated, or Mikey's giving you the shits the day before or something like that, and you're still upset. Just be careful.
It's the old adage, right? Write it twice and read it, and then send it once.
It's a great response, mate.
Don't ever just write it and then hit send in frustration, because you might want to write it, step away, come back, and either read it and rewrite it, or delete it and just forget it. Yeah.
I don't know how. I'd like $1 how many times I've written it, something like that, and not sent it, and then 2 hours later read it again, going, "Fuck, you didn't send it."
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all guilty. All had that one.
Yeah, you live and learn. All right, mental health, mobile phones. I'm sure we'll talk about it again in the future. Thanks, Mikey. Thanks, Nicole. You've both been good. We'll have you back.
Thank you, guys. Look forward to it.